because it has a better camera. All right, y'all.
Right.
It's me, the indie comic book guy. If you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. With me today is a friend of the show, very special guest, Mr. Madison Hawthorne of Golden Tree Publishing. I need some sound effects, but like, yeah.
Right. Ooh.
I know, like, ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah.
Now, Madison reached out to me a few months ago to edit one of his flagship books called The Power Twins. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to find out more about Golden Tree Publishing. How did you get started? What was it like going from just writing your own material or writing for other people to starting your own publishing line? So let's start there. What led to the formation of Golden Tree Publishing?
Honestly, man, it's I guess knows. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like you can go about, indie comics. First off, anybody knows it's not for the faint of heart. You know what I mean? You got to have a real passion for it. It's not one of those get rich quick things. So it's like I kind of just started it. Basically, at first I was just kind of publishing under my name.
Yeah.
And then I figured just to get some more legitimacy, when some of the projects that I was working on weren't getting accepted by other publishers, to just kind of actually take it serious as a business. And so get a business name and get everything going and get a title or entity that can exist outside of just my name. So that's like how I started Golden Tree Publishing, basically as a self-publishing imprint. But it helps like when you're like, when you're trying to brand out, so you can kind of have a little bit of separation between yourself as a writer. So and your business entity as well. So I can do a lot of, marketing and stuff under Golden Tree Publishing. It doesn't always have to just be under my name,
Exactly. Now I like that, and you did something that a lot of people, like you said, you got the no's. No, you're not good enough. No, we don't like your story. No, this ain't what we're looking to publish right now. And instead of just being defeated and like, well, I guess this ain't for me, you decide to take the bull by the horns and, like, you know what? There's an audience out there for the stuff that I like to write, the stuff that I like to read. I'm going to put it out there myself. And now you're my competition.
Right. I mean, basically that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're like passionate about it, it's like, some no's aren't going to stop you from making your comic, right? Like who can stop you from making a comic if you really determined to make it, or who can stop you from getting a comic published and out there? You can't just be like, if I don't get accepted by one of these big publishers, then it's over for me. You know what I mean? Like my dream's over. It's like, really here's the thing too, because like the other thing is maybe they could say yes to me and not properly market my stuff, or it could flop with them. You know what I mean? And then I'm out, and then you're out anyway,
Now, Jeremy Love, years ago, I read an article. He had a book published by Dark Horse, and it didn't sell. And in this article he wrote, he mentioned that he may never get a chance to write for that publisher again because the book didn't sell. And that's one of the things people don't think about. It's like you can have a fantastic story, great art, all of that. But if it don't sell, you may never work for that publisher again.
Right. Yeah. If they lose faith in or confidence in your ability to create a book that's going to sell, which is like, I mean, you also see like, I guess for like the indie thing, it's like two ways, right? It's like you get hot as an indie publisher, and then the big publishers want to come and work with you, right? Like once you've done all the legwork, or the opposite way, you are hot working for a large publisher, and then you go independent and you bring your fans with you, right? It's kind of like either way, it's like you got to put in work, to get yourself out there and be selling books,
You really do. So what's behind the name Golden Tree? Like, I love that name.
It's just kind of a derivative of. So my first book was it's a manga style book called King of Sweden Last Bloodline. Um, I worked on it with Brian Golden, and since it was my first book, and he was an artist, like this is like my first book I'm doing. Um, I managed to link up with Brian and send him the scripts and stuff. And honestly, man, if I look back at like some of those old scripts and I'm like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And but he completely blessed me with the artwork and everything in that book. It reads backwards, left to right, like a traditional manga, but essentially it's a derivative of his last name, and then the tree is like everything's on paper. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And everything's on paper. So we're making books and we're trying to make things that are golden, man. So it's like it kind of evolved into that. And I think the logo fits really good. It just looks good on books and things.
I like this book. Like, I did a review on this channel of my first comic book, and it was trash. But looking through this, I haven't had a chance to read this one, but just skimming through it, I'm like, it was very professionally made. Like, my shit was not professionally made at all. Like, this is good. Like, this, people would still pick up. But I know how it is when you create, you see all the little mistakes the reader doesn't even see.
Right.
No, but I like that though. And one of the things I like about you from reading over some of the materials you sent over is I didn't realize how diverse you are with the genres you write for, the stories that you tell. Like, a lot of indie writers, they either horror stories or superhero. Like, you have manga, you have samurai, you have all ages books. Like, that shows diversity in writing. And when people talk about diversity in comics, they're normally talking about this, but not diversity in the story.
In the story, right.
Which I think should be the conversation people have.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, of course, like there's like the there's the traditional lack of representation in all media. People are pushing for that, but also pushing for, like, for me, I'm trying to write the stories that I want to read but can't find. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like I'll read something, or like if there's a story that I really like and it's like it's the only thing out there like that. Like, why aren't there more things out there like that? And so like I don't feel like I'm like, I wouldn't tie myself to a certain genre or anything like that. If I have a story, no matter what the formatter is, if I think it's good enough to sell, honestly, if I've got stories that I like, but I'm like, nobody's gonna like that, and those will never get made. You know what I mean? I'm like I got like this idea is so great, but it's just great for me, so I'm not gonna make that one. But if I have a story, it doesn't really matter kind of the genre for me. Like you said, like I feel like I've got, like, part of my problem is I got too many stories sometimes in my head. I'm like, all right, which one do I focus on?
You wrote a story about unicorns, and you made it dope.
That's my favorite. That's my bestseller right there too, for sure.
Yeah, I was like, Unicorn Melee. I was like, what the heck? And I started flipping through it, and I started reading it. I'm like, oh, damn. I was like, this is good. Now, you said this is your favorite story. Now, to the audience.
No, this is that. Yeah, I would say that was like one of my favorites. But it's definitely my bestseller.
Nice. Sure. So, for the audience, tell them what this book is about and why you think it's one of your bestsellers.
Oh man, I think it's just the title. People love the title. First off, like Unicorn Melee, they're like, "What is that?" You know what I mean? Like they don't know what to expect. But it's actually it's a 17 plus kind of comic for language mostly. At conventions, parents still buy it for their kids. It depends on the parents. If you're okay with a couple F-bombs here and there, there's nothing else that's like really too crazy as far as like, for adults, but it's mostly for the language. But essentially, man, it's a story about a blacksmith who stumbles across a wounded unicorn who and when he tries to help the unicorn, he finds that the monster that wounded the unicorn is now after both of them. But it really is like just a kind of a different take. It was actually inspired by that. I don't know if people know the game Robot Unicorn Attacks. It's like a mobile game, but it was kind of inspired by that. And I was like, how did a unicorn even get like like would get like that. You know what I mean? So like it kind of inspired that story. Um, and my goal eventually is to do 3 of those. And I think part of the reason I did the 17 plus on that. So if you want to get that, it's at goldentreepublishing.com. But if you want to get that, the reason why, like I said, right now it's only adult because of the language, but I'm
Yeah,
planning to do 3, and it's going to get a little darker each one. So I just wanted to set the precedent early with the first one, so that people aren't like shocked. You know what I mean? By the time he's third one, it's already adults, who are mostly reading it.
exactly. Now, before we get into the Power Twins, I want to thank you for one thing. I don't know what a lot of these indie publishers have against having barcodes on their books, but this is important, especially if you're getting your books in bookstores and
Yeah. It helps all if you're like me and you're placing in local comic stores. It's going to be a lot easier for them when you call them or come in and say, "Hey, how many did I sell?" If you have a barcode, because they're going
exactly.
to put their barcode in the system with all the rest of the books, the DC and the Marvels, and they can just say, "Okay, what was the title? Okay, here's the barcode. Okay, you sold 5 of those, last week, so we owe you this." You know what I mean? Like you
Exactly.
know what I mean? Versus if it's like, "Oh, what was it? Oh," and then it's like, "Oh, the title," and it's like, "Oh, I don't see it in there," and then it's like, "Well, I had it on the shelf over there," and it's like, "Oh, but it's not there anymore." Or did
Nope.
they say, "Oh,
It's
I don't
yours.
know if
Front
they
and
sold it." You
back.
know what I mean? Right? Yeah, yeah. So like, definitely barcodes. Barcodes are necessary for conventions, but definitely for stores, it's going to help, and it helps you too, as far as like if you're trying to, if you're taking the business approach and you're trying to track everything, you can track everything with your barcode, like every other business.
Exactly. Now let's talk about Power Twins. What's Power Twins about? And this is a fire logo. I love that logo, by the way. But
Shout out to my homie Ray's Arts, for that. You can check him out on Instagram. He hooked me up with that logo.
yeah, I love that. So, what is this book about? Because I know you brought me in with issue 2, and
Right.
I read issue 1 and issue 2, and when you sent this to me, I reread it again, and I'm like, I see where he's going with this. Like, this is a 2-issue series, but this has Saturday morning cartoon potential written all over it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and like I said, I brought you in because first off, I just feel like you got great insights on comics and things. And the editor that I had working on the first thing, had some, funny enough, personal things going on, and things happen. So I was looking for a new editor, but yeah, this is like, this is the one thing about this is the complete story. So like the issue you worked on, issue 2, that's the end of the story. But it doesn't mean that there can't be more. And it
Yeah,
would be kind of like a Saturday morning kind of thing where it's like a villain of the week, a villain of the issue type of deal. Um, all of them loosely tied together, but not necessarily a complete like linear story,
mm,
that you would get with like say something like a manga like King of Sweden, which is just a linear story that's gonna be all the way through. This is like, you don't need to read, like if you read this one and let's say I do another 2, you can read the other 2, the second 2-issue series, and not have to worry about really reading the first one to know what's happening.
that's true. So, what is Power Twins about? Who is Mel and Trey, and what is going on in this book?
So Power Twins is about Mel and Trey. They're twins, and they're kind of on a run to a mysterious, undisclosed destination, but they're being pursued by an ancient evil villain who hopes to kind of use their powers to essentially conquer the world. And the thing about it is, he knows more. Like they're kind of new to their powers and can't quite control them. But the villain, Cash, um, who is actually modeled after of Cash Shishin, the Chinese god of money. I hope I said that right. I probably said it wrong. Disrespected disrespected a whole bunch of people, but he is kind of pursuing them, and he knows more about their powers and just how powerful they can be. And so he's trying to basically capture them. And
Yeah,
so it's kind of their story of kind of being on the run to this destination while also being pursued by this villain who is hoping to capture them and kind of just use them, to use their powers.
nice. I like that. Now, when I read this and when I went back and reread it, I like how you make each one Trey and Mel, as well as Cash. He has a whole personality, individual characters, and even from a design perspective. And I thank you for this. You made them look like little African American kids, black kids, whatever you want to call them today. Like they have hairstyles. Everybody's not bald. We went through a whole 20-year period in comics where every black character, except for Storm, was bald headed. Like if they did have hair, it was just black. Like these kids, they have different color hair, they have personalities, and you're not writing them as, oh, they're little black kids. Color, race, none of that is mentioned in this story, and it doesn't need to be because
it's not necessary. Yeah, it's not necessary.
So when it came to designing Trey and Mel, were they based off your kids or some kids Like, what was the thought process in their design?
Actually, well, the design was just like in my head. I was like, okay, when I was like thinking of the story, I was just like, okay, Trey's powers kind of work this way. So how would he look like this and things like that? But it was inspired by my niece and nephew who are twins. So like that was kind of the inspiration. But then like, as far as like the design, I thought it was like, it'd be cool. Like, it's like you got a hero, if you will, a protagonist who looks crazy and he's in a straitjacket. And it's like, what the heck's going on with him? Like, what's up with that? And I think that one, it leads to a cool design. I think, you know what I mean? And it kind of like, the one thing it does too is like the design is it keeps them together, right? Because he can't move without his sister's help. You know what I mean? So it kind of keeps them together in the story. And also, like I said, I just think it's like a really like kind of nifty, kind of different take on a design. And also, but there's utility to it, right? Like, so like as the story goes, there's utility and you understand exactly why he's in the straitjacket. You have to read it to find out, but like you'll understand when you read the story, which
One of the cool things is, and you touched on this earlier, the villain Cash, he makes a point about Trey and Mel, and I'm not even going to say what it is because I want people to read issue 1 and issue 2, and that tripped me out when I first read it. I was like, oh shit. In regards to which one's the more dangerous one of the two,
right?
So that was pretty, eye opening, and it reminds me of those old Sonic and Tails games, or even Ratchet and Clank, where I'm picturing these characters and I'm picturing them, since they're tied together in a sense, having to rely. If you're playing a video game, you can switch off,
like a side scroller, like exactly. Yep,
that would be dope.
Yeah,
that would be dope.
For sure. I'm glad you caught that too. I'm glad you said that because that was like kind of my thoughts too. Like it is kind of like that Ratchet and Clank type of deal where it's like you switch off, there's the gadget dude, and then there's like the main guy or however you want to do it. Definitely, those were my thoughts when I was kind of working on the book as well. So I'm glad you caught that.
See, I try to catch things. Sometimes I gotta read something 2, 3, 4 times because I know people are like, Arthur, you don't like anything. You say everything is trash. I'm like, yeah, I do say stuff is trash, but I have reasons why I'm justifying why it's trash and what could be done to make it, not trash. But you are a fucking fantastic writer, and I think you fly under the radar as far as the indie scene. Because the ones that do fly above, they're affiliated with, Super Friends or this SJW crowd, comic great crowd. And I'm just like, comic books are comic books. So let's all just come together and create some dope stuff.
Right.
Now, I heard a rumor that you're going to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah. I think we're going to do one, a real small one, not a big goal, but just to do the first full print run for issues 1 and 2. Generally like, and I guess if you're looking at like for my indie space, like the way I do business too, one, like this will be a good way. This is going to be like your people's chance to get their hands on the book. They'll be the first ones with the full book. outside of like myself and you and some other people I have to send it to for promotion. But the Kickstarter will be real small. Actually, I can put a link. I can send you a link to our preview page.
Okay, definitely do that.
I'm gonna just actually put it in the private chat now.
Okay.
For you, and then but yeah, it's just a small goal of 250, but you're gonna be able to get issues 1 and 2 of the book. And actually, can I share my screen? I think I can.
I don't think it will let you on here. It's like, will it let him?
Let's see. We're gonna find out. I'm trying. It says it's saying I can do it. I think you got to click something though. You got to like approve it, maybe.
Yeah, add it to the stream. Okay, there we go.
Just
so
real
you just
quick.
taught me something new about this StreamYard thing. I didn't know you could do that.
Cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So this is our launch page. So people can sign up to get notification when it actually launches. But again, we're going to do a small Kickstarter. You'll get issues 1 and 2, hard copies, full color. It's 58 total pages of comics. The story's complete, so it's not like you're going to be back in a project and you got to hope for the next one to come out or hope for the story to get completed. This is the complete story. You're going to get both issues. It's going to be finished. And we do have one bonus tier that's going to include some of our other comics, but for the main tiers, it's going to be basically just issues 1 and 2 of this book. Or you can do the PDF version, just digital only, which is like a lower tier, but you'll still get issues 1 and 2. You'll just get them in a PDF format instead of the hard copy. And like most comic book people, I'm sure we can all agree that the hard copy is way better than reading digital.
Oh, hell yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, yeah, we're going to do this Kickstarter just to help kind of fund the print run. And what I was leading into, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. But what I was leading into is like, just like I said, some advice for some indie people, like if you're larger, like a lot of people are doing big print runs of like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 books. For me, I do small print runs, and then I take the revenue from those print runs to do more print runs. So I'll do 4 or 5 print runs.
Nice.
Like, most people are going to do, like larger people might do 1 print run of 3,000 and then maybe a second one if things are going well. Like for me, I kind of just, budget it out where I'll do the first print run, take the profits from the first print run to do a second print run and keep it fun. And that way you don't end up with a whole bunch of extra inventory. You know what I mean? Right. For books that you couldn't sell or whatever. But yeah, definitely check out that Kickstarter. You guys can hopefully Arthur will put it on the link below for the YouTube. So you guys can sign up for the pre-launch page and get notified when this Kickstarter is going to launch.
And when are you planning on launching it?
I plan on launching it at the end of the month. I'm not sure. I don't confirm the date, but probably anywhere between Friday and maybe like the first week of May. So like Friday, April 29th to like Wednesday that next week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The weird part for me reading this is because I went in, it's like, oh, it's an all ages book, but it didn't read like an all ages book, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess like my idea of all ages is no matter your age, right? You should be able to kind of enjoy this book. It's not really just for kids, and it's not just for adults, right? It should have appeal to kind of everyone. Like, I mean, like most things, right? Like, I mean, adults and kids love superheroes, adults and kids love manga. Like it's kind of like one of those things where it's not like, something where it's like, oh, this is so G-rated. It's like, like this is like, stupefying kids all across America. or it's like so adult where it's like, oh, I can never let my kids read this. Like it's too violent. Like, you know what I mean? Or something like that. I think it's a good balance. Kids and adults can enjoy it.
No, I like the Power Twins because, again, my mind, the way it works is I'm seeing like this go, into different areas and Saturday morning cartoons, video games, more comics, and, kids at school, like reading. Oh, did you read Power Twins? Yeah, I read it. Oh, you got issue 1 and 2? Yeah. I see that because it has that much potential and it's very marketable. All your books, I've noticed you take very good care to make sure that, hey, I got a good story, good art, and the designs, characters, everything are marketable and can compete next to a Marvel book or a DC book or a Boom Studios book, and people won't get a drop in quality. They'll get that same uh, type of quality within these books and not feel cheated or, oh, I overpaid for this. And this is my thing with the word indie, because I'm like, if your book's next to a Marvel book, you're competing for the same audience. That customer's not gonna know unless they're familiar with that book or that publisher, if this is an indie book or if this is from Marvel or DC. So I'm glad that you paid a careful attention to that to make. I'm just rambling. What I'm saying is the books are
Right.
good.
No, yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm glad you think so as well. Because I know like a lot of those, like I just sent you like the kind of the full gamut. Like, I know you worked on Power Twins, but I figured it'd be good for you to get, you know, just kind of like some free comics, so you can get familiar with some of my work. But I definitely appreciate that. And I definitely got a lot of thanks to my artists that I work with as well, Ozzy and Brian, who are the artists that I work with for those books. But yeah, I definitely appreciate it. I'm glad you think so. I mean, that's the goal, to try to make it as best as I can. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I try not to take any shortcuts.
That's weird. Let's see, got two more questions for you. First question is, what is your advice for people, and I'm sure you get this a lot, that want to get into comics, who they're scared. Either they're scared about, they don't want to be told no. See how it all comes full circle from the start? They don't
Right.
want to be told
No.
no, or they don't want to be told that they're not good enough. What is your advice for people who have the talent, or even, if they're not the most talented, but they have a story that they want to write or draw? What would your advice be for them to get into comics?
My advice would, like, I mean, if you're scared to like get feedback, negative feedback and things like that, um, honestly, I don't know what advice I could give you other than like, you just got to do it. Like, you got to get it and understand that negative feedback, you can look at it that way, or it can be constructive criticism. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like it's how you like I played sports growing up. So like, if all athletes know, like, like the one thing I know is like most people who play sports is you're used to someone yelling at you, telling you things ain't good enough. You know what I mean? And,
Exactly.
but it's not, but that it's not because someone's just trying to knock you down. It's because they want you to be better. Um, and like, if you got good friends, you can always hand them your stuff and hopefully they'll give you honest feedback and say like, yeah, I'm not feeling that. Or like, you know what, that doesn't work for me. And if you don't have honest, like your friends are like your biggest cheerleader, so whatever you give them, they're like, yeah, it's great. Give it to some strangers, and think about it this way: when a stranger gives you feedback, you don't ever have to talk to them again if it rubs you the wrong
This is
way.
true.
You know what I
This
mean? Like you can just take that feedback and you can mull it over. And I would just say, like, just start doing it, right? Start making it. Even if you feel like, say, you're not talented enough, if you feel like you will be, you know what I mean? Like some people might not be ready for the big show, if you will. But you still got to start making comics. And I can guarantee you that there's somebody out there who maybe their art isn't, your art, like if you think your art isn't good or your writing isn't good. Um, there's somebody out there selling books whose art and writing is worse than yours. You know
That's
what I
true.
mean? I can guarantee you. I can get, and they might be killing it. You know what I mean? Because there's a whole other essentially side to it, which is how good are you at marketing?
Bingo.
You know what I mean? There's a
Tell
whole
what you got.
there's that whole side to it too, because there's also some super like crazy talented people who can't sell a book because
No.
you know what I mean? They can't get out. They don't know exactly how to market. Maybe they're too introverted and they're scared to network. So there's that end too. So like, I would just say you just got to do it and, understand when someone's giving constructive criticism or honest feedback. It's like if Arthur reads my book and says it's trash, Like for me, it's like, okay, like fair enough. I'm just trying to hear why they think it's trash, so then I can look back.
Exactly.
So I can look back at it and say, okay, I agree with that, or I agree with that, or even build consensus. Like for me, I try to build consensus, right? If like, um, if one person says it's trash, but 7 other people are like, yeah, it's great, then I'm not too worried about that. But if 6 out of 8 saying like this is not good, okay, you know what I mean? Like okay, maybe I need to go back and take a look. And you got to
Yep.
be honest with yourself too,
Damn, that was deep. All right. Last question, because I've been talking about making a video about this. Do you think, I'm just gonna call it comic book journalism, whether it's a blog, whether it's a podcast, YouTube channel, do you think it's good or bad for indie creators in their books? If so, why or why not?
What do you mean, like CBRE or something, like comic book resources, or is that what you're talking about, or like just like
More of the opinion pieces. Like if I say a book is trash,
right?
and 5 other podcasts say this book is trash, whether it's Captain Marvel, whether it's Joe
Right.
Smoke's book over there. Do you think? And I guess being responsible journalism is what I'm getting at. Do you think it's bad for the industry when comic book journalists or YouTubers or podcasts paint a certain narrative about a certain book?
It depends on if it's like, I mean, I guess it would depend, man. Like some people got angles, and it's like some people say they hate books that they really don't even hate because
Yeah.
they know what their audience wants to hear. But if it's just like a legit critique of a book, I mean, that's everything gets that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I sit at home and critique sports teams that'll never have any say in what happens. You know what I mean? I sit at home, I watch movies, and I say like, this movie wasn't good. Like, you know what I mean? Like the entertainment needs that, right? Because like if it's genuine, then I think it's great actually. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's good to see what people are thinking. And for me, like if I look and see like, okay, everybody's saying this is trash, maybe and I can look and say like, okay, why are they saying it's trash? And I could say, okay, is any of that in my stuff? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like is my stuff headed down that route? Like I look at that too. Like when I watch something, if I watch a movie, I'm like, oh, I didn't like that. And I'll look at one of my stories and say, do I got something like that in my story? Because if I don't like it, why would I write it in my story? Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I think it's fine. I think it's one of those things where, as long as it's, not disingenuous, I
Mhm.
mean, it's good, and it's good to talk about, you know what I mean? I mean, back in the day, right? Critics, nowadays it's the internet, everybody's a critic. But back in the
Every
day, people just got paid to review movies and tell you if it was good or not. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
wanted that job back then. I'm like, where do I sign up for that shit now? But yeah,
right,
everybody has a podcast, a YouTube channel, Twitch, whatever, oversharing their opinion.
right. And their whole thing was like, they would break it down as to what they thought was like wrong with it. Versus it's like I said, sometimes it's just like people are just saying stuff and it's not really a critique. It's just like, I didn't like it because the cover was stupid. But it's like, but it's like, how was the story though? Like they don't say anything about the story or what was wrong with the story. Right? They just say they didn't like it because XYZ, but they never mentioned anything about the story. It's everything outside the story, right? Like, or it's everything outside the artwork. They don't say the artwork's bad, but they just say like, like, so it's like as long as it's disingenuous, not disingenuous, I think it's a great place. And more importantly, I think that it actually, I think it can help because it helps like keep people engaged with
Yeah,
comics because depending on who you talk to, comics are dying or they're thriving. You know what I mean? But anything that brings people in to engage with comics is good for everybody in comics.
I love that. And I always laugh when people say it's dying because I'll go to Indiegogo or I go to Kickstarter and this person who I never heard of, they just made 50K or 100K. And I'm like, well, the comics are not dying for him.
Right, right,
He just
right.
made 100K. Like, uh, that's why I really do think it's important to build up your fan base for both yourself and your IP, especially since everything's so oversaturated, whether it's comics, movies, music, the fans and potential fans are looking at people individually. It's like, hey, what do you bring to the table? Will your story sell me on you as well as your IP? Because we're buying into that. We're buying into people's personal stories or their IP. Like, wow, Power Twins sounds like a cool book. I want to check it out. I want to, hey, end of the month, the Kickstarter's coming. I can get both issues. Both issues. I want to check this out. You're giving people a complete story, which now it's a rare thing to get within the indie community, because a lot of people, they'll create issue one of a book, then they'll have another issue one of a different book. And I'm like, can I get a complete story arc before you move on to another IP, another idea? And that's few and far between to get a full story within the indie comic community, unless it's a graphic novel. So, I salute that you're doing that.
Yeah. I think it's a different approach because I got like ongoings, and Unicorn Melee is just a graphic novel, so that's like a one-off too. But like ETA, the Samurai one, is kind of it's an 8 issues thing, so it's kind of stretched out and it is going. But this one is like, I think it's just good. It's a good, complete story. It's fun. It's exciting. It's got action and it's funny. And I gotta say, man, when you open it up, the villain Cash, you can even show him if you show him on the thing. That suit is flying. I don't care what anybody say. His suit.
We'll try to get it on the camera. Or is that shot at?
I think it says you can kind of see it. Yeah. Yeah, that suit is clean, man. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I was like, dang, I need that suit. I was like, that is fly. Like, I like how he's just cool. Like, yo, you did work for me. Yo, here's some money. Go buy yourself something pretty. Like,
right.
He's like, I'm buying loyalty. I know I'm buying loyalty. It's what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Here's what I need you to do. No apologies.
That's right. He pays well.
But let's get out of here because it's Saturday. It feels good outside. At least where I'm at. I'm in Colorado.
It's real nice out here for like the first time ever. Yeah.
But definitely send me the link to the pre-launch. That way people can check it out. They can watch the previews of the Power Twins once it launches. I'm gonna let everybody know. Go check this book out. You get not one, but you get 2 books because they're twins. So you can get 2 books.
That's right. Man, I like that.
Now, where can people find you on social media? If they want to follow Golden Tree Publishing, if they want to follow you, where can they go?
Real simple. We kept it pretty much straight across the board. Golden Tree Publishing is the tag on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't do a lot on Twitter, but Instagram, Facebook, and then you can, of course, our main thing is our website, goldentreepublishing.com, where you can get everything but Power Twins on that, because you got to get Power Twins through the Kickstarter in order to get that. But the ETA, King of Sweden, Last Bloodline, our manga, and Unicorn Melee, you can buy all of those now on our website. You can get hard copies or digital, either one. Yep.
I like that. All right, Mr. Madison Hawthorne. I can't even say that today. Hawthorne, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go eat lunch, then I'm going to go climb a mountain. Literally, it's in my backyard. So fine. Cool. But thank you. I'll be with you soon. Everyone else, go to his website, buy some stuff, check out the Kickstarter. It's coming the end of the month. Get those notifications so you'll be the first one to know when you can get your copy of Power Twins issues 1 and 2. We'll see you in the next video. Like, subscribe. I'll see you next time.